It's a beautiful day, lots of sun, and I am helping the one I choose to do life with as best as what I can while still honoring my grandpa at home. And I wanted to make a video on the 4th anniversary of the day, my descansos, that forever changed the way I see things, including life, and all of the legislation that is not nice that's being passed, that people are being asked to petition against. I didn't fully understand how that set me up to be able to sit here and say to you that it is not true that petitions are the best way to do what we all need to, which is stand up against the mixed war that is being fought for our consciousness and our conscience. It is time to see the mixed war in reality is between the public and private and our identities within each. So let me break it down in simple terms. If you believe that putting a fictitious entity or position on notice is going to change anything, you are delusional. Not because it is your fault, but because that is the default mode we have been taught to do with people who are leading initiatives they are profiting from, at the expense of us becoming the ones who are prophets of our own life, with a PH instead of an F. If you want to actually do the things that all of these initiatives are asking us to, please understand, I say this as one who spent hours attending the Freedom Rising calls in the first year of the pandemic that was written by the hands of men and women fulfilling public positions. I also hosted 12 lawfully organized summits to support and get to the bottom of the 5-step lawful notice process of the Practical Lawful Dissent International group that Jackie Phoenix is running now, that David Robinson, who started it, I was going to say founded it, died in November 2020. I interviewed her December 2020 and then hosted all of those meetings with my friend Chantel, who in the end we pulled back because we saw that it's a trap. They are using mixed jurisdictions, which means that if you say notice to agent is notice to principal is notice to agent, and you think you're being clever to try to use a common law argument with that preface, especially in dogged Latin or dogged language, which is what it is when a English appearing word has more than 2 letters capitalized within it, and then it becomes a sign language that appears to be English but is not. These are the ways that we have been deceived, and initiatives like that make it easier for things such as Bill 36 I was just reading about, that liberty, of whom the founders of that I have connected with personally and shared my story, much of which was trauma-based, not because I meant to, but because 4 years ago today, my perspective and reality completely changed and my trust was broken with myself and many others too. So I say this not because I am above anyone, but because I say we need no higher key in order to climb and rise together, for all we must do is just simply stand as who and whose we all came from and will return to and are part of, except for when we believe ourselves to be separate. So, this was a lot of information, and I'm saying it because I do believe that it is time for us to gather, not on our knees, kneeling to someone outside of ourselves, an entity or some society or licensing board that is going to have us be bored and ultimately then at the mercy of ones that are supposed to act for us as agents. That second person, when we're meant to be the principals or first person within our own story. Pronouns are being used to deceive us to believe that we are the third parties in our own affairs. They've only become affairs because we invited an extra entity into the identities that we have adopted. And then we can be made to seem imbeciles, wards, or infants who then must be the infantry that have our identity changed. I know I speak in riddles, and I'm not going to take out my fiddle and whine because in the end, sometimes it is the artists who find the way out because we put the E back on create instead of just react and hate that which is happening to us, when the truth is it is happening for us. Every time we have been pressed, we have been like the fine wine that must be stomped on by the universe in order for us to become that which is fermented and then makes others drunk off of the sweetness that is fostered within that which is mustered from the pressing of it. So, may we be like the fine wine we are, without the wine with an H, looking up to the divine, but instead within. For that is where the source connects us all. For the only thing that would have us fall into a different jurisdiction where someone else can apply their diction or rules, juris being what those rules are, diction being how we have adopted the syntax, semantics, and semiotics that make us apply meaning to words that then have an order to them for us to interpret them in a common way. All of these little things need to be broken down in a way I believe I can help with, and I am not the one that has all of the answers, but I do have questions to help you direct your ions on quests that will serve us, instead of having us believe there is some fictitious them that is doing it to us. The reality is we are all being thrust into a war for our souls, which is what the spirit that flows to and through us all is meant to do. Except for when we believe a middleman can do it for us, we block our ability to actually channel the divinity that is flowing to us and then cannot flow through us. For if we need someone else, we must get permission to do the mission we are here for. So, I'm going to end this message today and say, if Bill 36 has frightened you and you're in BC and you are a licensed professional who has paid a lot of money to lie to your senses, even Jordan Peterson, for instance, all of his advocacy, well, he is deceived too, for we need no license in order to be ourselves and help others. And income is where we invite the entities in to our identities, and then we have to follow rules that are led by a unidroit de facto usufructory system that is designed to use, profit off of, which is fructus, and abuse someone else's property, which we are deemed to be because the Vatican had us all declared dead and lost at sea as per the Se Qui Vi Trust Act of 1666. So the knock on your door is right here, and you can choose whether you are interested. And I'm going to put together a summit where we are going to gather and get to the bottom of what it means to be real, how to remain in our private capacity, and put the men and women acting in public positions on notice in their private capacity should harm, loss, or fraud be caused against you who is willing to advocate for yourself. You don't need some legal professional who has sworn an oath to the bar or crown to represent you when you can be present if you know how to do it, and I can help. I do believe that is why I got locked up 4 years ago, when my soul said no. there is something fishy going on and it stinks, and I believe there are good ones that are working in these public positions, so take me to your leaders and I can help bring peace to this world. And I was deemed crazy for it, and that was where a lot unfurled that broke down a tremendous amount of my crown until Corona, which is an expanded and enlightened crown chakra, then was activated in me, and now for the world to see, not because you can see it specifically, but because I embody it and I live it, and I've been doing the work privately, not talking about it publicly, for I need no authorities coming after me when I have claimed the right to be lawfully self-governing as a woman in my private capacity, with all rights reserved at all times, those being the uncapitalized common law, which is unspecified, which means we can draw from it whatever we choose so long as we are willing to use our pen and sign our name, not on the sign at your own risk line. The signature line is when there is an X before it, which represents the agent, for then us to become the third party. But to learn how to actually sign it as who and whose you are, I said it at 11:11, it's significant, it's new beginnings. I don't have all the answers, as I said, but I have a lot of questions because I've asked a lot of questions, and I've gained answers that I am no longer going to try to just push my BS, which my mom yesterday reminded me that when I say BS, people think I mean bullshit, when the truth is, when I say it, I mean belief systems, which is where all BS in both camps actually stems from. So my diction is different from the majority because I see words in a different way, and I would love to play with you in a different and novel way that is innocent and honors the inner sense within us. Because play is the way that we win this game, not as the outcome, but as the purpose of it all. The whole play where Shakespeare said we are but players on a stage, taking our roles and acting them for a time, which is what we do when we rhyme, and also step into the office of man or woman for a time, put on the suit and play the role, and then we take it off, and then we go home to play and love our loved ones that we put on the suit in the first place in order to get paid so that we can play more in our private life. Well, there is a way to do both responsibly and honorably, and that is what I would love to be able to come together because of. So if this interests you, give a like, shoot me an email, laura@ljeh.ca, or subscribe to my emails there, and I will be sending messages, because after having been disillusioned, writing the story of the reality of man's empowerment that started as evolution, and I thought, I'm no history major. I'm an English major that simply has followed a lot of rabbit holes in order to get back to the fact that everything is mental until we ground it in our reality and live it. And that is where knowledge becomes wisdom, of the wizard's domain, where we can claim the right. Wow, there was a rat that just ran across the path. I do believe it may have been. So yes, there's more to that story too, but it's a side trail I'll not take you on this time, but another, for sure. For the night before this, 4 years ago, that rat was very significant, in fact. So I hope to hear from you and say, may you enjoy being the one who is inspired enough to live in a way that is noble, honorable, and worthy of you.